Welcome to another interview in our FM Expert series. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Martin Reed. Hi Martin.
Hello there.
Good to see you. Martin, as many of you will know, is the editor of Facilitate magazine, the magazine for the IWFM. And Martin is going to be talking to us about what sounds like a fascinating subject, planned profile maintenance, but he's got a slightly different spin on it. So I'm going to hand over to you, Martin.
Yeah, that's entirely my making, planned profile maintenance. I just thought I'd connect it into the sector. And of course, not being an FM professionally myself, obviously we're in a position where we are reflecting what's going on in the sector. So I can't give you tips on how to be a better facilities manager. I can tell you that there are a whole number of different things that we've learned over the years that will be helpful in terms of your public profile. And of course, everyone nowadays has a public profile. So I've just got a few tips about how as individuals, if you want to be more visible within Facilitate, I can tell you a bit about that, and then a few others that will follow on after about general things that have come up over the course of the last 10 years or so. So let's start with...
Yeah, fantastic, thank you.
We're always looking for fresh voices, always. We're looking for a response to topical issues. We're looking for solid agreement with something that's been said, or solid argument against something. It is surprisingly difficult for us to find fresh people to say, I thought that was wrong, I think that's right, I'm not sure about this policy, I like what's happening here. So never think we wouldn't be looking for new voices, because we always are. Opinion, quotation, even authoring a separate comment piece, or being part of a panel to agree with or refute an argument. We're always looking for fresh voices, so always feel welcome to approach us.
Okay.
It's a good way of getting out of your comfort zone as well, I think. I think that's taking part in this means, taking part in a magazine means considering what your argument is and why you're saying it. And that's not necessarily something you're comfortable with, but yeah, we'll always be there to help you. It's also about the context of the story as well, not the story itself. Why is it useful for you to be telling us what it is that you're telling us? What's important about it for other people? Yeah. We're increasingly focused on telling people about their stories so they have a positive impact on others. Yeah. So yeah, here's a big one. We're not trying to catch you out. I think sometimes people think that, you know, the specialist press is very similar to the national press, and they see all the negative stories about, you know, bad news sells, which it certainly does. Yeah. I assume we're going to try and do something like that. And I mean, I can assure you that's not what we're about. Our job is to present the most positive message about what this profession achieves. It's the rich community of workplace and facilities managers. We know that. To be seen amongst us, you know, join in the conversation. We're always after specialist authors. So if you've got something you've become a bit of a specialist in, now we know workplace and facilities management is all about sheer breadth of different types of activity. Yeah. So if you picked up on something, yeah, you know, we might not necessarily know that. Get in touch.
It's interesting though, Martin, because I think, so picking up on all the points you've made so far, a lot of people don't think they know enough to think they would have a voice. They'd love to be a fresh voice, they'd love to be your point one, but they think, oh God, there's loads of other people who've got more experience, or I've not been doing it long enough. And I think from your point of view, it's probably really hard to kind of pull those people out, because they will always defer or think somebody knows more, but they may have something amazing to say, or a completely different perspective.
That's completely right. And I think nowadays more so than ever, actually. And I think that's certainly true, that if it's the nature of the job, it's the nature of the variety of different strands that you're putting together to get the service supplied, that you might think that a particular viewpoint on how the catering service is procured or supplied, or how cleaning is done in and outside of hours, or whatever it might be. These are things which, yeah, okay, there's a lot of conversation about this kind of service, but there's always fresh angle. Yeah, I should say there's also a lot of people saying the same thing.
Yes.
So be advised that there can be times when we say, well, listen, everyone's saying that. It doesn't happen that often, but yeah, it's, you know, it's an important thing to consider. Don't hold back is the key thing. Just get in touch, let us know, and we'll say, okay, 9 times out of 10, absolutely.
All right, perfect. Thank you for that one.
Now, oh yes, this is really important, is kind of connected. Never think your voice won't count or is in some way less than someone else's. You know, connected to that level of experience element is the fact that we know that we are here to showcase the widest possible view of the profession to the widest number of people.
Yeah.
To that extent, we run a parity policy to make sure that we do as much as we can to highlight women and ethnic minorities as part of the overall group of people who are contributing to the magazine.
Yeah.
And we check that document once a month to make sure that we are not going too far in the wrong direction. So that's never ever going to be a bar. And moreover, we are positively looking to make sure that we are showcasing everyone's experience. So be aware of that one.
Yeah. And from a female point of view, I want to hear from, I want to be inspired by, people who may have had a similar journey, or, I know when I started in the profession, it was very male, and white. And like you say, we need to hear this diversity of voices, don't we, from everyone involved in our profession.
Completely, yes. And I think when we go out we go often cherry pick people and say, well, do you want to take part? Do you want to be the Q&A interview in the magazine? And there's always something really interesting about the individual. It doesn't matter who they are, what their background is. But we do have to, get out there and find as great a variety as possible. But absolutely, it's all
brilliant. I like that one. Okay.
Yeah, also, there's likely to be a reason why something is topical. Going back to that bit about we may already know, it's possible sometimes people get in touch and say, hey, but whatever it might be, let's say it is a hand sanitizer. Do you know there's a load of really useful new form of formulation of hand sanitizer? There are so many people doing that now. We probably already know it, and therefore we'll be on the case and we might be reporting it in some way. So there are times when if you get in touch and we say no thanks, it won't be for any other reason then, it's because it's already been said. Yeah. So but don't let that be impediment to get in touch.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that one. Oh, I love these. These are great. Keep it going.
So that's the magazine. Editorial@facilitatemagazine.com is the
we'll put it on our link so people can just, and is that emails to the magazine, does it?
It is, yeah. I get to see all that, as do the other members of the team. Preet will see it from a news point of view. She's got her own news desk account, but we share the editorial one. So that's where the general queries and suggestions come in, and we split them up depending on the department.
All right, we'll attach that. Thank you.
So moving on then to rider plan profile maintenance, I guess the biggest one is IWFM awards, simply because working towards doing one, it's like a seed bomb. A seed bomb is one of these kind of small things you can get at a garden centre full of old seeds. You throw it into the garden, it becomes this fantastic.
Never heard of one of those.
Oh yeah, you've got to check them out. But it's such a way of, once you've been involved in the process, you become connected to it, and then other connections grow. So the IWFM Awards, I know there's a COVID-19 category coming up for, where are we now? I don't know when this gets to get posted, but it's the 12th of August as the completion date. So obviously yet another reason for getting involved with that. And it's because whatever happens, people will be in touch to ask about your perspective on it. What was it that is involved in putting the project together? How did you see it through? How did you get over the challenges? Just going through that question set is really valuable to get wider awareness of who you are and where you fit in.
Yeah.
And I consider social media, two aspects of social media. The first is that social media is great, or can be very, very good. Look at what we're doing now. And of course, social media can also be a bit tricky in that, certainly over the course of the last 2 years, some of the discussion on various channels is difficult to drag away from extremes of argument. So a good way of promoting yourself and a good way of being seen, but be wary of getting involved in too much conversation that might drag you into some horrific rabbit hole you don't want to go down.
Stop and think. Stop and think.
Exactly right. Yeah. I still think that we're in this. I thought Twitter was going to be the new radio, a completely fantastic bespoke form of communication for interest parties. which it is actually, but it has been sidelined by these, grabbed hold of by these people who've got anonymous identities and tend to want to create problems, shall we say. So anyway, there's that. Also, I mean, I know this is a bit twee possibly, but own the airwaves like you own your organisation's productivity. We know that you're a key part in ensuring that the company you work for runs and operates smoothly. So make most of it. Beth, you had Alice Omisanya on a couple of episodes ago. She did a webinar for the IWFM group. That's the kind of thing. That's really good, you know. So you can do a lot through that, which is obviously for the wider good, but connecting to what you're currently doing. Everyone's a publisher these days. I've been saying that for about 7 or 8 years now. Everyone sure knows that's the case. But also everyone's a member of groups. We're all part of groups. Facilitate is a group which just happens to run a magazine. We're all community groups nowadays, and the more you're involved in those groups, the better. There's never been a better time for workplace and facilities managers to make their case. I mean, I'm sure that's coming across in all these interviews.
Yeah, it is very much.
But not only is it the timing and this extraordinary situation we're in, but the tools we've got never been so bountiful. We've got, you know, these incredible devices with ultra high definition cameras on them, and we can do so much. The big issue is that there are 2 limits to that. One of them is your time, which is actually very important. And the other one is your compliance obligations, which is probably equally so. But the time one is the big issue, because if you want to be consistent in the production of something, you know, that can be quite a commitment, and you need to see it through. So, you know, do one-offs from time to time, perhaps, to promote projects you've been involved in. But there is a value in consistent programs of activity, but just be aware that you need to keep it going.
Exhausting, all of this stuff.
It can be, absolutely.
In addition to your day job, it's like, oh God.
Yeah, absolutely. And then always, if we do agree for the suppliers link to the magazine, going back to Facilitate, be aware of the deadline. And if we give you a deadline, that would be very helpful, please. Stick to that. But listen, there are so many ways in which you can get involved with what we do. I stopped myself from saying the magazine. Obviously, it is a magazine, but it is one of those community groups, we go out of our way to try and filter information down to provide the context back to people. We're never perfect, but constantly reviewing how we do that. And as part of your plan profile maintenance, the more you want to be involved, whoever you are out there, we'd be happy to hear from you.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to emphasize your point about fresh voices and never think your voice won't count, because I know there'll be a lot of people who are watching this who think, as I said before, he doesn't really mean me. So no, we're doing a call to action, Martin, to say, contact Martin if you think you've got something to say, if you've got an opinion. Even like you say, sometimes if you've just finished doing a project and you think, God, I learned something new, share it, because that might be really useful to somebody else. Yes,
and also if you have completed a project and your concern might be, well, I need to tell my people in marketing now, and there's going to be this whole rigmarole of getting it signed off. First of all, it might not be that problematic, and secondly, you don't necessarily have to be specific about the project, just what you learned, because that in itself is a valuable thing to get back to the audience.
And I tell you, from a reader's point of view, and this applies throughout my career, I've always loved reading about what people have done wrong as well as what they've done right, because we operationally, we learn as much from the mistakes that others have made, so we don't make them ourselves. So that's always a good read as well.
I think people are possibly happier to talk about, failures now, but it's still something that's difficult to tease out from people.
But it's a good read.
Oh, absolutely. Of course it is. Absolutely. Bad news sells.
Yeah, it does. Listen, Martin, that was brilliant. Really, really useful points there, and I hope it's given people a bit more confidence to get in touch with you. And we will share the address details so people can do that. So for now, thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Martin.